There's just something about watching a series as it was airing. You'd get this tension of not knowing what's next, the impatience of waiting for the next episode to come, the frustration at each and every cliffhanger, making for extreme excitement and thrills. However, there's a problem. There's no way of knowing if the series is good, more so if you're watching a K-drama, as very, very often, a masterpiece in the first half can go downhill as it nears its end. So today, let's avoid that issue with our list of series that started out extremely good, only to later disappoint. Number 1. Itaewon Class. The first half of Itaewon Class, right up to episode 10, was a total masterpiece. Following the determined male lead Park Se-roy, we get to see an underdog story, where he worked his way up from the bottom, broke through his obstacles, and defeated the big bad evil. The series has got a fleshed-out set of characters, from the very well-built and hard-to-defeat villains, conflicting characters, to the diverse and properly developed side characters. We get to see growth in the characters' relationships, as well as intense battles between the good and the bad. And we also got novel stories rarely told in K-dramas, regarding gender identities and race. However, the series' later half became extremely flat and rushed in later episodes. There are cliches, damsels in distress, and unprompted changes of heart. Things are solved with violence rather than tact.
죽자. 조이서.
Which just doesn't click with the drama's entire foundation. Worse, the characters, which were supposed to be the pillar of the show, became walking stereotypes by the end. It just feels like all the buildup from the previous episodes came to dust. Number 2. Penthouse. Next in tow is a notorious case. And yes, we're talking about Penthouse Season 1 versus Seasons 2 and 3. Penthouse started out great. We have the setup of a murder mystery with many, many suspects. And there's a tension and thrill to watching how the events unfold. We are curious to dig out the past and motives of each character, and their sneaky schemes just glue our eyes to the scenes. Season 2 went a little downhill. It gets a little boring to watch supposedly dead characters go, "Surprise, I'm alive," every now and then.
오랜만이다. 주단태.
And some plot holes are complete nonsense. But there's the brilliant acting, good villain stories, and the layered scheming making it impossible to drop. The main characters are still true to themselves, and the character development, and some changes of heart get us curious. However, Season 3 completely spiraled out of control. Characters acted like idiots, the scheming became questionable, and at some points, it seemed like more of a gag drama. And I guess that the screenwriter may have been trying to make a somewhat memorable ending, but killing off all the major characters is no longer new, especially when their deaths mean absolutely nothing. My suggestion? For your sanity and peace of mind, drop it after the end of Season 2. Number 3. Now We Are Breaking Up. Heading to a more recent work this round, and we have Now We Are Breaking Up. Song Hye-kyo's work has never disappointed, and of course, there's no denying how handsome Jung Ki-young is. The series started out pretty steamy and sexy, with a looming history that's made things more complicated. It is also pretty woman-focused, which often means great drama, but as the series goes on, it's hard not to get disappointed. For starters, the major conflict of the series, aka the reason why our female lead holds no faith in love, was this completely ridiculous story about how her lover never came to a date, but it turns out he died from an accident, which sounds like a 2000s drama and not something from 2021. Adding to that is the extremely slow pacing, with events dragged out for episodes, no major conflicts, and barely any character development. Worse, the series is just not enjoyable. It is not healing, not humorous, and not at all dramatic. I say it might work as a movie or miniseries, but 16 whole episodes just feels so dragging. And judging by the declining ratings, the Korean audience would probably agree. Number 4. Something in the Rain. Speaking of melodramas, Something in the Rain started out so good. It is a realistic story about a mid-30ish woman bored of her life, with a terrible family and boyfriend, and yet she still manages to be heart-fluttering with a new relationship. The chemistry between Son Ye-chin and Jung Ha-im was top-notch, despite their age difference. And I find myself awing at their every eye contact and touch, relating with the excitement and secret gestures that you get when you have a crush, and immensely enjoy everything that's going on the screen. However, the entire later half has a WTF moment over and over. There are obstacles, which is reasonable in K-dramas, but they are pretty frustrating. There was no character development, the female lead kept repeating the same mistakes, and to one point, the relationship between the main couple even felt downright toxic. The series had a happy ending, which may be a bit soothing, but it was unconvincing, didn't tie up any loose ends, and the characters are still the same people that decided they wouldn't work together. And in the end, I did not get the cute Nuno romance that was promised in the first few episodes, but rather a series about selfish people that refuse to grow. It just feels like wasted potential. Number 5. W. Two Worlds. Disclaimer: W. Two Worlds, to me, is like this guilty pleasure watch. It was engaging and extremely fast-paced, and the main couple is like one of my all-time favorites. The series also started out extremely strong, with a novel concept where our female lead is dragged into a comic series that her father was drawing, and the male lead is a comic character with a terrible life. And honestly, you will never find me complaining about Lee Jung-suk and Han Hyo-ju's acting. They delivered exactly what was promised of their characters, and took W to the next level. W also introduced us to one of the scariest villains of all time. Despite him being fictional, his schemes and strength were just off the charts, making the route to defeating this elusive antagonist all the more interesting. However, the strong villain ended up being one of W's major downfalls. He ended up being so strong to the point of infallibility, and the writing suffers because there's no sensible way to actually defeat him. So by the second half, W seems to have abandoned all the world building. It just keeps dropping new scary abilities for the evil, introducing unanswered questions, and at some point, just becomes completely illogical. The happy ending had managed to soothe me somewhat though, and W was a daring and novel series. Just, it could have been a lot better. Number 6. Startup. Don't misunderstand. Like W, Startup, at least to me, was enjoyable. It was uplifting, inspirational, and feels like a refreshing coming of age for the adults. The technology setting was a bit oversimplified, but we can let it slip. And despite the name, Startup's true core was never about building a company, but rather about other values like friendship, self-growth, love, and found family. I absolutely adored the series' many character arcs, especially that of the second female lead, So In-jae, and I loved the many relationships in the series, romantic and non-romantic. However, as we approach the finale, Startup ended up making the same mistake as many other K-dramas. It gets overdramatic and adds unnecessary details. There's this revenge arc with the character Yong-san that feels completely out of place, to the point that I'm not even sure why it is even in the series.
까지는 말했는데 기억도 못할 줄은 몰랐네.
The main character, Do-san, also barely gets any character development in the later half, and the series often dumps him down for humor, which gets frustrating. In conclusion, I'd say Startup is not a bad series. Still, it would probably be better if it leans more towards self-searching than the love triangle. Which, speaking of love triangle, hashtag justice for Han Ji-pyong. So that's my list. There are obviously many other dramas that destroyed their potential near the end. So do you have any series that you think would fit in the list? Or are there any entries you disagree with? Let us know your opinion in the comment section. And if you want more videos like this, remember to like, share, and subscribe to bbalidrama. See ya!